YuGiOh darlings! We talked about the Kaiba brothers' fashion story in the previous video. Now it's time to talk about the YuGiOh Girls' fashion analysis. We are not going to cover the Millennium World as it is not historically accurate and is presented more as a fantastical wardrobe almost like the YuGiOh trading cards. So we will focus only on the female characters of the current timeline, mentioning that this fashion is based on the 90s since the Yu-Gi-Oh manga was published in the mid-90s and the clothes were also drawn from a male point of view. Girls' fashion is characterized by not wearing pants. They usually wear skirts and shorts. We can rarely see a dress, but not a single one of them wears pants. Most of the colors used are pink, yellow, and blue, being the most common color combination for the female characters. And also, as mentioned in the previous video, the hairstyle represents their personalities. Let us begin. Vivienne Wong, starting with the forgettable femme fatale from the Kaiba Corp Grand Championship. Let's not confuse with China's fashion designer, which they have nothing in common, as Yu-Gi-Oh! Vivienne Wong's first appearance was many years before the fashion designer did her first couture fashion show. This Yu-Gi-Oh girl is a model, actress, and a kung fu champion. Because of her Chinese roots, she wears a traditional Chinese dress with openings large enough for her kung fu fighting. Blue and pink bracelets that complement the characteristic colors of the three-fourths of the feminine look according to the Yu-Gi-Oh fashion. She also wears twin buns in her hairstyles, which gives her a childish look. Assuming she is the same age as my Valentine, the Asian fashion was very popular on the early 2000s. People all over the world wearing the Chinese traditional dress and hair buns every time they had a chance. Usually the hair buns were worn by the kids, yet the teenagers wore the dress. Vivienne was ahead of her time, and her style is the Chinese aficionado fighter. Serenity Wheeler starts out as a 12-year-old girl. She has only 3 outfits in the series. Aside from her traditional pink pajamas, her most popular outfit is the button-down shirt with colored sleeves and rolled-up shorts. She also wears tennis shoes with white socks. Serenity's outfit, while not a fashionista outfit, represents her era and what many girls her age were wearing at the time. In the manga, we see Serenity still wearing button-down shirts and now a long skirt, very popular in Japan, generally worn by modest females. In the last episode where she is a 14-year-old girl, we see her wearing a nice skirt and a matching white shirt again, showing her desire to get more involved in fashion as she grows older. Her style is the not enough personality teenager little sister. Rebekah Hopkins. This girl is fashionable and girly as heck. She is 12-year-old, apparently the same age as Serenity. In the anime, she is 8 years old. But in reality, Rebekah rocks the Lolita fashion. Lolita fashion started in the 1980s and began to become more popular in the 1990s. Although petticoats weren't worn in the 90s, just a skirt, cardigan, socks, and ruffles were enough to start with. A fashion that can be built with everyday clothing. The next outfit of her, where we can see a conflict in her for a more casual look and not so Lolita style, we appreciate how Rebekah still has her own taste for fashion. Probably because she was bullied for wearing a bear as an accessory that was also used in Lolita fashion. We also see her experimenting with much more fashion, such as the cowboy outfit. The cowboy look started with the Gatos and her Californian look. Pretending to be a cowgirl was another branch of the American style in Asia, just like Asia had an impact on the fashion later on in Western countries. And for her latest outfit, we see Rebekah going back to her roots on the subtle Lolita outfit. She's swinging her twin tails again and looking more mature in the thigh-high socks from the preppy fashion of American movies. It would have been better to watch her Lolita fashion style deepen. Rebekah's style is the dropout Lolita with a curiosity for fashion. Ishizu Ishtar, the caramel color exotic Egyptian beauty. Although many might think that the outfits for Ishizu can look very fantastic as the clothes of the Millennium World, she is far from it. Let's have some lessons in cultural history. The veil was used primarily by the upper class in Egypt in the early 1900s. as a way to maintain the privacy private in their realm female celebrities, which also represents how these women did not have to work. Still, the veil was a fashion statement used by all kinds of women who aspired to be the 2% of the upper class ladies. But in 1930s, a resistance movement in the female put the veil out of fashion. Men liked it that way, along with lower class women, and thus the golden age of Egyptian cinemas was born. Egypt was receiving great influence from the Western countries, and men liked being able to see the beautiful faces of women. But in the 70s and 80s, the veil made a comeback. Women wanted to reconcile with their conservative traditions, and yet Egypt was having a lot of Western Hollywood influence on fashion. The veil was seen as a symbol of liberation and empowerment for women. In contrast to the westernized look brought to Egypt in the 1930s, the women now wore both Western and traditional clothing. It later evolved to wear a headscarf. Although today wearing the veil to cover the hair is not an obligation, many women bully other women who do not wear the headscarf. At the same time, there are some places that prohibit the entry of veiled women. So in the mid-90s, where Yu-Gi-Oh is taking place, we can see Anishisu wearing something similar to her traditional dress, which was always worn and is still worn today in Egypt. People had the option of wearing their traditional lining clothing and also Western fashion, so the possibilities are big. And the fashion of Ishizu is a good example of this, being the most gorgeous hybrid of both worlds. And let's mention her second outfit, the best attire used by a woman in this Yu-Gi-Oh world. We can see a very westernized, subtle dress in a nice champagne color, which represents the sand of the desert, but also her status, and her beautiful headpiece with a veil, symbolizing how strong she aspires to be as a woman. After all, we are talking about a descendant of a tombkeeper who became a museum curator for the Egyptian government. And the gold, so much gold. Although, I can understand why she has so much gold in her outfits. The boss bitch works hard and has a lot of real gold to take care of. Ishizu's style is an empowered folkloric Egyptian golden era salary woman. If you enjoyed this series, give these girls a like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And if you made it this far, comment which anime you want to see a fashion analysis next. My Valentine, the femme fatale from the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. She is an orphan in the Japanese version and a neglected child in the 4Kids version. Mai takes her fashion and sex appeal as her instrument, using her assets to attract the attention of powerful men and her duelist skills to move up in the ladder. Mai uses purple a lot, combining it with white, black, and pink. The purple signifies royalty and gives you a very feminine look without screaming it. Combining it with the neutral colors such as white and black gives a very elegant feeling to her look. Mai's outfit in Duelist Kingdom is highly couture, worn by many pop stars and celebrities from the Western countries, wearing a corset shirt with the miniskirt and high platform boots and jackets like those worn in Japanese fashion. In Battle City, we see Mai wearing a lighter shade of purple and a difference on the top. She is no longer wearing a straight corset, but more like a corset style blouse. She is also wearing a very popular sleeveless jacket from the 90s and early 2000s, and now she wears gloves. Like the queen of comfort that she is, she protects herself from the uncomfortable dual disc. And we see the roughest way to carry a deck in a thigh-high belt. Because let's be honest, skirts didn't used to have pockets back then. And in the filler arc, we see a new style on our favorite blonde with shorts instead of skirt. Unlike the rest of the series, she no longer drives a car but a motorcycle. So wearing a short is the most comfortable way to ride. Now, instead of using the color white, she uses black and also a darker shade of purple. She now wears a belt for her deck and beautiful long motorcycle gloves along with a choker, more popular in the early 2000s, and thigh-high stockings with her boots or probably some custom-made thigh-high boots, as knee-high boots were more popular and commonly found in the 90s and early 2000s. Thigh-high boots were not used as much. Mai has the best jackets in all of YuGiOh Girls fashion. They may look alike, but they all have very different details. This is a woman who knows her own personal style. Her style is the violet comfortable sex appeal, boobylicious boss bitch. Thea Gardner, the character with the most costume changes in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, varying in color in all adaptations. Thea is a high school girl who loves fashion and is aware of all the trends that surrounds her. She wears boots, platforms, thigh-high socks, skirts, shorts, whatever. Thea, unlike Mai and Ishizu, she doesn't have an obvious wardrobe color, but she has her own style. She likes to play with color combinations, the most used colors being yellow, pink, and red, yellow being the most visible yet in a subtle way. She likes wearing platform boots or platform sandals with thigh-high socks. And she loves to wear accessories, be it bracelets, necklaces, belts, and a purse. Either wearing a tank top or long sleeves, never in the middle. Whenever Tag goes for a little walk or goes out with friends, she is seen wearing a skirt, and we can see that she loves to wear skirts. But when she goes on a more active hike like the Battle City Arc or Waking the Dragon, a short is the most comfortable outfit to wear. She probably learned that from the Duelist Kingdom where they had to sleep on open air. Seeing how many days passed in the Yu-Gi-Oh story can be easily traced just by looking at the different outfits Taya wears. Since Takahashi sensei had the patience to draw different outfits for each different day. That way, we can know that Battle City took 2 days in total, even though as viewers, it felt like a 2-week time lapse. We see how she follows the fashion to crop tops, shirts with slogans, and exposed navel in most outfits. Although it is not shown, back then, fashion idolized showing off your bare stomach, and long-waisted pants did not catch on until the 2000s. Not only does she wear trends in clothing, but she also has a custom phone for her feminine personality. One of the best details in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the use of the same clothes in different outfits. Although it is not shown often, it is implicit and gives the characters a lot of realism. The biggest change is seen in the school clothing. As in the manga, we see Taya wearing thick socks, a fashion that was popular in the early 2090s by the caries in Japan, and in Dark Side of Dimension, we see her wearing thigh-high socks, which means that she not only wears Japanese fashion, but she also wears Western school preppy girls fashion. We can appreciate her playing with different types of fabrics. Taya is indeed a fashion diva. And who knows, maybe she was following a subtle Gyaru's fashion after all, since the ganguros of the 90s were not as exaggerated in makeup and outfits as we can see them in the 2000s and today. Her look is the Hollywood American wannabe diva, probably Gyaru girl next door. Like the video and subscribe if you enjoy watching and hearing about the YuGiOh Girls fashion. There will be more videos on fashion analysis in anime or on a specific characters, so look forward to them. May your dreams come true, and see you on my next video.